Back on this one for a bit today. I'm going to try to finish this intake tube up. Just had a lot of trouble with the 3D printed stuff. Not so much the tube, but how it attaches to the throttle. So I have a bunch of different designs here, and this was the rough draft one, and it ended up splitting. Just when you put it on, it splits along the layer lines, and I have them in the layers going this way, so that when the intake is hanging off of the throttle, it's not hanging on one layer. But unfortunately, when you have the layers going like that, when this thing has to spread, it spreads along the layer lines. And I printed it out of a different material and changed the design to make this larger so that it didn't have to open as far. Here it is. And unfortunately, it's still split. It's harder to see, but there, it's split right here. I just couldn't get it right, and I just couldn't get it right. And I'm sure someone out there maybe who's better designing things than I am could do it, but it just wasn't working for me. So I decided to scratch the 3D printed thing, unfortunately. And I found a set of Billet 90s. So Race Part Solutions makes these, and I didn't go to them at first because I didn't know how to attach them to the throttle body without just welding them to the throttle body. So these kind of were not something that I initially considered, because you can't fit like a Wiggins clamp here. Between the 90 and the throttle. Obviously, you can try to cut this off and then try to weld down up in here. I don't know if I'm skilled enough to weld back in here. Maybe some people are, and maybe then you could do it. But even then, it's going to push that 90 so far forward. I'll show you how little room there actually is. So, I don't believe that's enough room for a Wiggins clamp just there, and maybe that much is just enough room, but then we're already touching. So it's really got to be, and this engine's going to move forward, half an inch as you hit the brakes, if you're hitting the brakes while moving fast. And that gives us half an inch, but there's just no room for a Wiggins clamp there. So I did not consider these because of that. So I ended up just deciding that this wasn't going to work, and that I needed to come up with something else. So I went back to these, got a couple of them, and I don't know quite yet how we're going to attach it. It's amazing that it actually fits so nicely, but just because of the wall thickness and this little bead on here. So I'm wondering about putting a couple set screws, or at the bottom and in here, some stainless set screws, and then they have threads that go into this portion, and that might be how we attach it. I really don't want to weld this just straight to the throttle body for a couple reasons. One, and you can't really replace the throttle body if you ever need to. And two, I don't want a coupler after these. I think that would look really cheap, trying to keep this one solid piece of pipe. But if you weld this, you got to have a coupler somewhere. I guess you could have a Wiggins clamp down here, but then you're still left with, you can't replace the throttle body if you ever need to. And actually, even if you welded it straight to here, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be able to get that lower bolt out. Yeah, you definitely couldn't get that bolt out right there down at the bottom to remove the throttle body. So it has to be detachable from the throttle. I think we're going to try the set screw idea. I'm going to make the intake using these. We're nixing the air box, and I'm going to run the intake tube down through here. This car has some really big brake ducts, just because it's the wide body, and they have these big huge ducts that normally go to the cooler on a Hellcat, and they just go right out the backside. Well, you can't see it, but there's a big huge hole there, and it's a lot larger than a narrow body car. So I'm gonna have to take that all apart and remove that piece, and maybe make a block off plate so that the tire doesn't kick up dirt and junk into the filter. But I want to get this thing knocked out. This guy needs to get his car back, and we've had it too long. So Gonna try to get the intake done today. So here we go. Well, got a good bit done yesterday. Sorry I didn't film it. Just trying to get this thing done. But the Billet 90s worked out very well. And right now it does have some set screws in it. I decided to go that route. These are not going to be the final set screws. They're going to be button head so that you don't see them. That's just what I had here. But yeah, standing back, it looks really nice because there's no clamp. It's just a smooth transition into the throttle. So, and it does actually seal onto this 90 fairly well, which is pretty cool. And then the pipe is just like raw aluminum pipe. It doesn't look like this normally. It'll look like this. So it's kind of all beat up. Not beat up, but it's kind of all, it's got cuts and whatnot through it from the process of bending it. And sanded that all smooth. And it still needs a bit more work, but I wanted to just rough it in before welding it. I'll clean it up and make it nice now. And there's other stuff that's going to be welded on this. And then it goes down into the fender well. And the filter will be down in here. And the bumper needs to be, well, not the bumper needs to be modified, but this big air duct that I was talking about previously needs to be removed. And I'll make some sort of blanking plate for this so that the tire doesn't kick up, junk all over the filter. And then we've got to do the intake air temp sensor. Now I made this to a length for the printed intake, which was going to be, somewhere in here. But now that we're using this intake, I really want to hide it better than this. Like if it goes just right here, you can see the wire. And I'm not a big fan of that. It would be nice if the wire followed the path of the air conditioning wires down under the idler here. Like that. Zip tie them together, make it nice. Oop, my stick light went out. And now I need to make, that stick light's going out. Anyway, let's see if I can get another one. I don't have another one. So make that longer. So I would like to lengthen those wires. And I'll probably have the sensor go somewhere maybe down in here. I'm not sure yet, but I might lengthen those wires. And then the crankcase breather, I'm going to put that back into the intake. This car doesn't need a catch can, so it just makes it cleaner, less stuff in the engine bay. And it's going to be, man, I really need to get another stick light. So my plan for the crankcase breather is to kind of tuck it. We'll put a bung right here, and it's going to be tucked up behind the throttle so that when you are standing in front of the car, you don't see it. I don't want to put it like right here where it's super obvious and in the way. So it's going to be tucked up here behind the throttle. As long as I can get a wrench on it, that's as far as up as I'll tuck it. And then you can see that it'll just make this the path like that. So as out of the way as I can reasonably make it. And I don't want to put it all the way down here because then you'll have a big hose going all the way down here that I don't want to see. The idea is not to see any wires or hoses, so I'm going to try to stick to that. This wire is just for the throttle, so you don't normally see that. But yeah, I don't like seeing wires. Customer doesn't want to see wires. That's the goal here. So we don't want to see wires or hoses. And as you can see, there are very few wires and hoses. And you still have to make it serviceable too. Obviously, we could run the wires, through the fenders and come up in all these secret spots, but then you can't actually easily work on the thing. All right, there's the blanking plate. I'll go right on here, just with the factory clips. There it is. I think that's a nice little touch. Much more complete. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Well, it's finally done. This was definitely a longer project simply because of this intake tube. That was probably the most time-consuming part of all of it, just because of all the iterations. But man, I think this turned out really good. I am very happy with it. Wire tucked on both sides. Try to reduce the amount of wires you see. Obviously there's still some there, but everything's wrapped. There's the blow by tube, and this is also going to be the oil filler. So you just take this AN off, and or I guess you could do it, take this off, although that might scratch it up. But you could if you wanted. And then I got my button head set screws in. So those are M5. They look a little smaller on camera. But when you're standing here, you cannot see them. And it looks like it's just somehow magically attached to the throttle body, which is awesome. I mean, that intake looks absolutely beautiful. So interestingly, this is clear anodized, so you can't polish it. That's as shiny as it gets. All of this stuff and the valve covers are not anodized, they're raw, so you can polish them up. But it's very close. I mean, it's not as shiny as that. It doesn't have that deep shine to it, but maybe that's better, because then you don't have to polish it, because there's a lot of nooks and crannies on that thing. The fuel rails are also clear anodized as well. So, but yeah, this thing looks beautiful. And yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It was, and I think this intake just looks so much better than the plastic one. I mean, the plastic one was cool. It was fun to try to make, but this just ends up looking more uniform. And it almost looks like it's a turbocharged car. Which, if you wanted to do a turbo build, we can make it look exactly like this. With the exception of this, I'd have to figure something out for that. Obviously, this isn't good for a turbo car. This attachment with the set screws. Have to come up with something for that. I'm not sure what I'd do there. But anyway, that's this one done. And didn't actually know that this was a last call. I take these off, and I leave them off for the entirety of the build, just so I don't scratch them. But put them back on the other day and saw that it was a last call, which is kind of cool. He's got these custom wheels on it, which are pretty slick. I guess he had them made up, so like one-off style kind of thing. And then, so this is the one that had the watt box and the shift light. So there's the shift light on our custom mount. And yeah, so hopefully this goes and wins some car shows, because this thing is slick. There's definitely not another one like it out there. So if this is something you would like to see your Challenger look like, reach out. We'll make it happen. All right, guys, that wraps it up on this one. Thanks for keeping up with the build.